Yes, I haven't
Okay.
heard from Diane.
I hear you, Jack.
All right, very good. All right, seeing as how the purpose of this is to open to go into executive session, I think Diane can join us. We have a more than a quorum. So good afternoon, good evening. This is the Town of Cohasset Select Board meeting for Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. Tonight's meetings will be conducted on the Zoom platform and live streamed on Cohasset 143 and Cohasset's Facebook page. The public is invited to participate on the Zoom platform, which can be accessed using the link provided at the top of the posted agenda for tonight's meeting. Members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called upon by the chair. Board members will be able to ask questions of any participants. All votes taken in this meeting will be by roll call. Members of the public who wish to ask questions are asked to raise their virtual hand on Zoom, and at the discretion of the chair, will be promoted into the meeting. Members must provide their full name and address for the public record. Please note that comments on platforms others than Zoom will not be monitored. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Cohasset 143. Roll call vote. Jean,
Jean Haley Dippold here.
Corey,
Corey Evans here.
Paul,
Already here.
Jack Creighton here. I see Diane Kennedy is not here. I assume she will join us for the executive session.
Diane is in the attendee group, if someone can promote her.
Okay. So anyway, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. You can use the flag over my shoulder. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We are now going to adjourn this meeting, and we're going to go to an executive session for exemption number 6 to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate that, if discussed in public, may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. The body will receive an update on the new potential property acquisition. Chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where do we find, I run into this all the time, where do we find the new information to get into these Zoom meetings? You know,
It should be
executive
posted.
session, I don't have it.
For the record, I'd like to note that Diane Kennedy is now attending. Diane, just please say aye.
Diane Kennedy present.
All right, good.
everybody.
Thanks, Diane. They are sent to us. One will generally say executive session, but it is confusing. And we just spoke to Tracy, and she's going to see if she can figure out a little bit easier way for us to negotiate the various Zoom platforms.
If I could get 2 links, that would be perfect for me. I just navigating these things by phone and then by computers. It's just, you know, executive session link and planning board, I apologize, select board link.
Okay. Okay, I'm sure Tracy is hearing that, and we'll work on that. Anyway, the chair would entertain a motion. I think we can combine them to adjourn this meeting and go into executive session. For the public, the executive session should end before 7 o'clock. We will then continue the meeting as per the posted agenda.
I move that we enter executive session under exemption number 6.
Second,
We've had a motion to enter into executive session under executive. Corey, included in your motion is a motion to adjourn this meeting?
No, there is not.
Yes, okay. Motion is made and seconded. Roll call vote. Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean,
Jean Haley Dipple Dye.
Diane,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul,
Paul Grady, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. This meeting is adjourned, and see you in the executive session. Can everybody hear me? Everybody's on mute except for me. And I'm
Yes.
not, Corey's there. Diane. I don't know where Paul is. I see you, Paul, but your video is not on. Yeah. Okay. This is Jack Creighton, Chair of the Cohasset Select Board. We're reconvening our September 13th, 2022 Select Board meeting, which was opened at 6 o'clock and went into executive session. We're now reconvening. We want to do a roll call. Jean,
Jean Haley Dipple here.
Diane,
Diane Kennedy here.
Paul,
Paul Grady here.
Corey,
Corey Evans here.
Jack Creighton here. As is our custom, we open this meeting to any person in the public to speak on any subject. The subject should be brief. Any items brought up will not be discussed, and there will be no discussion of the subjects. The board may put them on to another agenda, it may not. So is there anybody out there for public comment, Tracy? Chris, you know, if I see Tracy's there, but I'm not.
Sorry, Jack. Are you asking if anybody had any comments?
You're right,
Sorry, no comments.
no comments. Okay, moving on, Town Hall Building Committee. For that, we want to consider an RFP, request for proposal, so we can provide temporary housing for town employees during the construction, rebuild, or whatever is done with Town Hall. Chris, what do we need to do with this? Or is Tracy better to, or Michelle? Michelle,
I'm gonna turn over to Michelle to discuss next steps.
okay.
Sure, so we will have to initiate an RFP for temporary workspace. Things that we'll have to work out prior to initiating that RFP is how much space exactly we'll need. If it's going to be short-term or long-term is really important to know before we issue it. And actually the timing of it, because I know we're trying to plan this in conjunction with a renovation or rebuild of Town Hall. However, as of late, the elevator is becoming increasingly more important to our operation. And we did hear from the elevator company today that maybe within the next 3 weeks, they'll be able to start setting up the site. Before they come on site, I did ask them for a full site plan because they had mentioned scaffolding and a lot of spatial needs that would interfere with our operations. So we may have to push that off until we can initiate an RFP and get some responses. There's some additional planning here. Do we need to house all the staff? What does it look like? We need to find a space, obviously, that is handicap accessible, So there's many factors. I did get some RFP recommendations from KP Law, which is great. And I'm happy to share those, and we can go through and identify the actual needs of the town before it's issued.
Okay, so we would be looking that basically when the elevator is down, everything at the second floor higher cannot be used. Does that include the offices that are in the old town hall?
Correct.
So we're essentially moving everything except for the clerk's office and the vault.
That would be true. But I would just make a recommendation. If we were to get temporary space, we would move everyone so we were all together. So people coming to the clerk's office wouldn't have to then go to another building to do additional business.
So functionally, for the foreseeable future, we're really looking at relocating the functioning part of town hall.
Correct.
Okay. Comments from the board, questions? Mark, Cameron, you have thoughts? I mean, of course you have thoughts, but
Jack, Diane's got her hand up.
No, I'll let Diane go.
that's Diane.
Thanks. No, I just, Michelle, just in terms of the timing for this, I mean, because of the elevator being decommissioned, does that mean we really do have to move out of town hall?
So it doesn't mean we have to move out of town hall, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult to manage the requests of people needing access to the second floor because we don't have the spatial needs to actually rearrange the operation so it's effective. And we did get notice from our attorneys that as long as we could service everybody on the first floor, then we wouldn't be out of compliance with ADA. That's becoming more difficult because we're busier. And especially with tax season approaching in November, it's going to become more and more challenging.
Mark.
I think this is mainly in the interim here before we would begin a town hall renovation to address the current needs. This isn't specific to the actual renovation. Correct, Michelle?
That's correct. We may have to move sooner, all depending what the elevator company comes back with as a plan.
Can they go in there and repair that elevator? What would the cost be to repair the elevator?
Sure. So Jack, we originally got the first price to repair the elevator without any remediation was about $95,000 to $100,000. The hesitation with repairing the elevator at that present time was the town hall building committee and the renovation or rebuild project of town hall. That elevator would be replaced. So it would just be, spending good money to then take something away.
Jane?
Is there a potential, Michelle, to do an RFP that also is in the short term, but ask for an option to extend if we want to, for example, so we have some flexibility, depending on how things play out, we can preserve that option for the future if need be. I mean, I would suggest that if you want to provide us with a draft RFP, we can all review it and, go from there.
Okay, that
I think
sounds
that
great.
makes sense.
Yep.
I don't know if others disagree, but
Any other comments? So what you're suggesting is that we approve a motion to ask for further discussion.
me? Are you
Yeah.
asking me, Jack?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we need a motion. I think we can just have, Chris Senior direct Michelle to begin preparing one, and if they need our sign off, then, we can.
Well,
do
we will have to.
on September 30th.
Okay,
I will share something prior to then.
okay. So in other words, we're not going to issue an RFP. You're just being aware that we are going to do that. There was some talk about some environmental issues in the elevator shaft. What is the status on that?
So we won't know the depth of that until they actually come on site. And without the project plan, we can't approve them to come on site. We want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before they're here and they start investigating, because if we do have to move, we want to have a plan to move.
Okay. So we know that there is some kind of contamination, we just don't know how much?
We don't even know that yet, Jack. They
Okay.
anticipate that there is, but we won't know until they actually get in the elevator.
Okay. Okay. All right, so any other discussion on that? Okay, moving on to revisiting our select board FY '23 goals. Long-term financial planning. We've been having a number of discussions. We had, one recently. And we are appointing people. We have a number of people on there. Inadvertently, Bill McGowan was not appointed. And also Chris Plex from planning. So I think we need to get those appointed. Is there discussion? And Jean, you might want to give an update on where we are in long-term planning.
Yeah,
Great.
I mean, in light of the fact we're behind on the agenda, I'll just give a pretty quick update because
Yeah,
it's available on video from yesterday, but we did have a meeting yesterday. And we started off talking about getting a readout from Bill McGowan on the sewer commission with respect to anticipated large expenses over the next 5 to 10 years. Likewise with Chris Pratt representing the water commission. We also had the chair and vice chair, Lance Stile and Craig McClellan from the school committee discuss the school facilities project and what that timeline, or really more the process looks like in terms of needing to hear back from the state, then doing a feasibility study, then getting more specific responses from the state after that. And Craig will be sending around a slide that really lays out those steps in greater detail. Then we continue to get a readout from Brian Host and Rob Hillman on the information that they had begun gathering with respect to trying to assess the debt load for the town. I mean, really one of the issues that we're wrestling with, I think, is twofold. One, it's how the rating agencies view us as we potentially take on more and more debt in order to, deal with some of these big capital projects that we're looking at in the future, and just trying to manage that from the perspective of the rating agencies and the town's credit metrics. And I think we really need our finance director to start to dig more deeply into that. And so that's a little bit on hold until that goes on. Another thing that I think is probably pretty important, including to the select board, it's if not the most important, is really trying to get a better sense of the willingness of our residents to take on additional debt as we come upon these projects. And again, how to responsibly manage and time that so we don't overwhelm people. And so we talked a little bit about that and began to think about, frankly, some of the difficulty in wrapping our arms around that. Mike Dick also reported out on his meetings with Michelle Leary and Chris Senior, including as it related to the capital requests with respect to our capital maintenance schedule. And then we really tabled the discussion because we didn't have sufficient time about new revenue. And so in addition to debt through additional taxes, we all agreed that we really wanted to think outside the box and perhaps more creatively about other ways we might be able to do new revenue. But we just barely began that conversation, including ideas such as hiring a consultant to proactively go out there and look for federal money to see if any of it aligned with some of our upcoming projects. And so that's to be discussed, continued at the next meeting, which we haven't scheduled yet, but will likely be in October. And then, as Jack said, Mr. McGowan from the Sewer Commission, we've had discussions with him and he attended. And so I think we need to appoint him to the committee. And Mr. Plex is both the planning board and the CPC rep. And so he brings that dual perspective, which I think is helpful. We're requesting to appoint him as well. And so those are the two motions that I intend to make, or someone else if they'd like to, but that's sort of where we are.
Have you made that? Are you making that? Diane, your hand is up. But you have to unmute yourself.
I tried and pulled back too quickly. Just two questions about kind of the elephants in the room in terms of big capital projects, one of which is schools, and the other, wherever we might go with regional sewer. I'm just wondering if we could get maybe a presentation, at least from the school facilities committee at a near select board meeting, because that has a, good outreach to the community.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things, the long-range planning will be doing that from a variety of things. And in addition, the actual expenditures would come before this select board, especially with schools. And I think that we will want separately for the select board to do that. Long-term planning is just to quantify the various things, get a price tag and methods to pay for that, so we can balance off so they don't all hit at once and we don't have big ones hit that are unexpected. So we can, basically even it off. And then it will come back to the select board and to the town, a town meeting, and likely in ballot box on that. The sewer has stated that they see no need for any kind of further capital, and I'm not sure whatever. That's just what was said. Anyway, is there discussion on that? Or I see Corey has his hand up.
Yeah, I understand Bill McGowan's request and kind of that. For Chris, is he filling is this a seat we created for planning board, or is that citizen at large? What, just curiosity, what Chris's role is for that?
I think he would be in both capacities. He's on the CPC with you, Corey, and planning board. So he's got insight into both, and he's got a background in regulatory finance. So would be in his planning board capacity. Unless someone disagrees, Jack, or.
Well, I'm wondering about that, because if it's a citizens at large, I mean, there's other people that have been involved in this. Like I'm thinking about John Chapman, who really was carrying this on advisory for years. There may be people out there, if we have citizen at large positions, Rob Jeffers, Katie Dugan, people that have been involved. Katie was involved last. I mean, there's other minds here. If he's just filling a planning board seat and the planning board's going to appoint him, then whatever. But if this is a citizen at large position, we can, there's a bigger net we can cast too.
Other comments? Paul?
This might be on paraphrasing Diane, because I like what she said about asking for a report from Diane. If I'm mistaken, I apologize. You were looking for maybe reports presented from the school board about their needs and wants. Is that no? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I was specifically,
I like that idea. That's why I'm saying it.
yeah, no, I was specifically talking about the building committee,
Yes, that's
which we charge. Yeah, because I think for ultimately our meetings, I must have been Italian in another life, but ultimately our meetings are reaching more people than, and by design than the others. So yeah, I would love for them to come to us and kind of give us an update on where things are at. If they're doing a PowerPoint presentation, absolutely. Let's socialize it here, because we have to start building buy-in from the community on the ideas before the money,
Just a point of
Mr. Chair, I wasn't done. I want to let you know that I would back that. I'd be behind. I agree with Diane completely on that. And I'd like to just my other comment on the people coming on the committee. I understand what Corey says about Chris, but Chris does bring that financial background to the committee. extremely detail oriented, and again, with planning, he's hit the ground running, and I think he'd be a valuable asset. I mean, I could say the same thing about Bill McGowan. I don't know Bill McGowan, so I'm not speaking badly of him. You know, as a citizen at large, or is he on the sewer commission just being appointed? Again, with anybody on those committees, I think you can look for that talent. So I couldn't speak highly enough about Mr. Plex. But then again, I know him and I've worked with him before. So
Are we, well, we need to appoint or appoint either one. Do we have any motions on the floor?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to appoint Bill McGowan and Chris Plex to the Cohasset Financial Planning Committee.
I would second it.
You've had a motion made and seconded to appoint Bill McGowan and Chris Plex to the Financial Planning Board. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just a quick
Yeah.
thing. One thing we didn't do at the last meeting, and I think I don't know whether it held up the official appointments or not, but we didn't set a term. So in the appointments, we should set a term, and maybe we just say through the end of this fiscal, so that we can just clean that up.
Through the
Unless you
end,
see it as a
well,
multiple
I don't-
year.
we have a motion on the floor.
I can amend my motion that I move to appoint Bill McGowan, Chris Plex, and the prior committee members to this Cohasset Financial Planning Committee for a year through from now until December 31st, 2023.
I'd second it and follow up.
Okay. We've had an amended motion to appoint Bill McGowan, Chris Plex through the end of 2023. Is there any further discussion?
Can I request that we vote separately on the appointments, please?
The motion is on the floor.
And I make an amendment that we make separate votes on the two appointments.
We have an amendment to the motion to have separate votes. Is there a second? No second. The motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, I'm going to poll. Diane,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul,
Paul Grady, aye.
Corey,
Corey Evans abstain.
Jean,
Jean Haley Dippled.
Jack Creighton, aye. Motion carries 3 aye, 1 abstention. Zoning Bylaw Committee is Tom Callahan here. Tracy, is Tom out or any place?
Actually, Jack, the presentation tonight was primarily going to be Lauren and
No, let
Justin to
Lauren
cover the communications plan. Tom's here. He did say for sake of brevity, he wasn't going to speak a lot tonight. He obviously has the full right to if he would like to. But we did speak with him last week. And
Well,
he's
this,
in the audience.
yeah, Chris, this is the Zoning Bylaw Committee on the agenda.
Well, it's about the communications plan, the public forums committee primary. I'm promoting Tom anyway, so Tom is up in the room. That said,
Yeah.
the primary presentations are designed to be from Lauren and Justin. So when the board had the big conversation about this last month, the goal was to bring back to this board a communications plan, which Justin's doing tonight. and
Okay,
a schedule of meetings and topics. And there's Tom. And Tom could explain this in more depth since he is the chair.
well, that's the Zoning Bylaw Committee, and Tom, I know you had a long meeting last night, which I had to miss because I was on the long-term financial. So if you have no burning desire to be up till midnight, you can say, I said it last night and that's fine, unless board members have questions about the zoning bylaw process.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Chris is right. I didn't prepare anything for tonight
Okay.
because Lauren was going to make this presentation. I was just here to answer any questions somebody have. But yes, and for the sake of brevity, you don't want me speaking.
Tom, I am not going to say a word, okay? So anyway, so we'll go to the communications plan. So Justin,
Good evening. I'm actually going to hand things over to Lauren first. She's going to present and then we're going to head over to me. It'll make a lot more sense that way. So I'm
okay,
going to, if that's all right, Mr. Chair, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren. It'll
Oh.
make a little bit more sense.
everything that Lauren speaks to makes more sense after she's spoken to.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate
You're
that. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lauren Lind. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director, and I'm going to give you just a brief presentation in a moment. But just to give you a quick summary, the Zoning Bylaw Committee they met yesterday and agreed upon a schedule from here until the end of the calendar year. Towards the end of the calendar year, we already have some sort of plans as to what the early 2023 cycle will look like, but we'll put some more thought about timeline and scheduling as that gets closer. In the meantime, throughout the next couple of months through December, we plan to meet regularly, typically twice a month, and have one forum a month. And we're going to have a series in which we select topics that have sort of been highlighted as different goals in past planning exercises and by the previous conversations as we prepare for this zoning initiative. And that's what I'll sort of give you a presentation on. So if I'm just going to share my screen, I just want to make sure I can get the right thing here. Bear with me one moment. It's hard to do this on a small screen sometimes. All right. All right, can we all see? Let me just pull this up in larger format.
Lauren, can I ask you a question?
You sure can.
And how often the zoning meeting is going to be?
We plan to have them twice a month, and then in addition, host a public forum. So the intention behind the public forums, as we last discussed with the zoning initiative, the zoning bylaw committee is sort of in parallel tracks working with town council to do a zoning diagnostic and work on the organizational sort of low-hanging fruit, if you will, of the reorganizational pieces of the bylaw. And then we also know that down the road, there may be an opportunity to address sort of more policy, larger topic oriented subjects. The plan for the forums is to do this public engagement that will allow the community to have a dialogue and to start these conversations before we get to a point where we're putting zoning text in front of people and talking about a specific amendment that we're bringing forward. It's to talk about concepts, potential tools and techniques and solutions to address goals that we may have or to fix problem areas. So what we'll do with these forums is highlight, we'll have speakers at each one that are sort of tailored to the topics, highlighting known zoning opportunities and challenges. And it's really an opportunity to educate public with information that we already have, as well as listen and gather public input on different topics. As I mentioned, we plan to do these on 3 evening forums throughout Mondays. I'm calling it fall 2022, but it really is the month of October, November, and December. Each will focus on a specific theme and subject related zoning matters. We plan to have all of the forums take place in person at Wolcott Commons, and they'll also be available in multi-format visual streaming, but I'm not going to steal Justin's thunder. He'll get in much more detail on that in a moment. Each forum we plan to have consists of between 2 to 4 combination of staff and zoning bylaw committee presenters, as well as in some scenarios, if there is a co-host committee. For example, on the housing topic, we will have someone from the Affordable Housing Steering Committee involved. Those will be the presenters. And we also plan to bring in a third-party moderator to help facilitate Q&A so that this can be really an opportunity for our local experts to be on the panel, answer questions and speak about their experiences. We can also have someone who may be a subject matter expert. For example, we're hoping to get some folks from our regional planning agency, MAPC. Someone who I think would be a good opportunity to have for our housing facilitator was Alexa Smith, who was the primary lead person at MAPC who helped us with our housing production plan. So she's intimately familiar, and that could be an example of someone who could give you a third-party perspective and also be able to answer questions from the audience that may arise that are just sort of topic specific to the subjects. So that's a thought. Our plan, we've sort of put some dates and times as well as specific topics to each of these to propose, and this was discussed at length and voted in support by the zoning bylaw committee. The first forum would really focus on Cohasset Harbor and the village because they are really 2 very specific and very important regions in class that we would plan to do this in a sort of session 1 and session 2 on one evening, focusing each conversation geographically. Some of the topics we could consider for Cohasset Harbor are talking about zoning districts, there are sort of a puzzle piece of series of zoning districts that are near one another in a small geographic area. So we can discuss what each of those mean and sort of what you can and can't do today. And then some different concepts that have been discussed by zoning bylaw working group in the past. This sort of potential to consolidate different regions, to not have so many, is something that's been discussed. And that is something that we can at least educate the public on what that means, so that they are empowered to ask questions and maybe make a decision at a future point if a zoning change were to come about. Another example, linkage fees is a concept that's commonly used in zoning. This is something that you can use as an example that's relevant in the harbor that Tom Callahan has thought of. So this is another sort of a zoning technique and tool that you can give an example of in real life, so people can understand and think about whether they would like to use that as a model in another scenario moving forward by embedding that into zoning. Some other things that we've discussed, base flood elevation and height and dimensional standards, particularly as we think in a lens of sort of sea level rise and where we are in the harbor specifically, thinking about what changes may be necessary or may be recommended, things like of that nature. We would then plan to take an intermission after we did a panel and a Q&A session to then focus on village. Similar format, looking at the village business district zoning, similar to how we did in the harbor, but then looking specifically at those existing potential new concepts. Things that we've talked about are, does the community want to take a look at height and modify what is allowable? Do we want to look at perhaps buffer zoning on the edge of where, fringe zoning, as some may call it, on the edge of residential to the commercial district? We have existing design guidelines as they stand right now, but it has been pointed out that you may want to modify them. It's been, I believe, about 15 years since the village business district was adopted, and it's been amended from time to time, but it could be an opportunity to change things, and then as a result, also tweak your design guidelines to make sure that your design products are really what the look and feel of what the community is looking for. And then another thing is the town lot parking bylaw. We know that parking is a really big topic, and I think that's one of the discussion that will come in the future, is that we do need to focus more on parking. However, if you think about the lens of zoning bylaws, parking regulations and zoning bylaws are not one and the same. But what we can point out is that specifically in the bylaws for the village business district is written in that if you're within 500 feet of the town lot, then you can be exempt from requiring parking. And that is in the bylaws. So that is something that you could feasibly address through zoning. That would be really the intent for package, forum number 1 in a nutshell. Forum number 2, we then take a look at housing. This would look to be co-hosted with Affordable Housing Steering Committee. Subject areas that we plan to really hit, sort of at a 30,000 foot these are complicated and dense subject matters, but we're going to try our best to sort of compact and unpack them for the public so that they can understand and start to digest. The MBTA communities multifamily housing legislation is something that a lot of people have been asking about. While I have all you now, I can let you know, and I'll be back to you all soon with more information about this particular subject. But the draft guidelines for compliance have now been finalized, so we do have real final tangible measurements of what we would be aiming for if we were doing compliance. So this would be sort of explaining this in a lens that the public could understand as to what this means and what it could look like for Cohasset. This would be an opportunity for the Affordable Housing Steering Committee to discuss the housing production plan, what it is, what's gone into it, and what the status of the project and various goals and things in that project are. And then it's an opportunity again to talk about zoning, existing bylaws, accessory dwelling units, large home review, our existing multifamily, what the challenges and opportunities are, and then what some sort of concepts you could consider to either modify these or maybe introduce new sort of zoning related to housing typologies. That would be in November. Then we shift to December, where we look at climate and resiliency. We would look to talk about sort of regulatory consistency. Particular example that I will sort of speak to is stormwater regulations. I've been working with the conservation agent in recent months and sort of working with the state to look at these and how you might bring a lot of our stormwater regulations are vastly outdated, but you run into where there's different rules and regulations in, the zoning bylaws and the general bylaws related under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission versus the Planning Board. And then you have rules and regulations that as to how the applications come in. There's so many layers that if you really don't take a comprehensive look at how all of these things fit together and you have regulatory consistency, you could wind up kind of in a mess or really not helping yourself at all. So that's sort of an example that I will give, as regulatory consistency is, not always the most exciting topic, but I think it's really relevant. It's going to be important as we look to unpack some of these more meaty subjects like stormwater bylaws or sort of climate related zoning. We'll have Clark Brewer from the Planning Board will give a presentation about green infrastructure, looking at architecture and low impact development techniques as to how you might incorporate those into zoning bylaws and sort of look to encourage and perhaps in some cases incentivize more sustainable development. Tom Callahan plans to look at the land alteration bylaws and what we have today existing, what's been recently amended, and also what potential amendments may come down the road. And then this may be an opportunity also to discuss some wind and solar bylaw opportunities as they relate to zoning. Something that has been discussed is making it sort of permitting for different solar facilities in residential areas. Do you want to look at that and tweak anything there? So these are just some topics. This is sort of in a nutshell what we're looking to do. And this is not where we plan to stop, but this is what has been sort of the main subject areas that we keep on hearing through the communities and that we think are the first sort of ones rising to the top. We do plan to address other topics, and I'm sure out of these, there will be follow-up, there will be other things identified that need more attention and more discussion, but this we feel is sort of the best foot forward in terms of chunking off topics to get this conversation started and to start to build this public engagement. So I'll stop there. That's all I have. And any questions, comments, or recommendations that you all have would be great.
Okay, let's put the screen down.
I seem to have, there we go.
Okay. Any comments, questions? See, Lauren, you explained everything. Nobody has any questions whatsoever. That's impressive. Oh,
See a bunch of small hands.
We got the three of us, yeah.
and Diane.
Corey had his hand up before me.
Then Jean, then me, yeah.
Yeah, Lauren, yeah, the amount of topics that you've already discovered and issues, I mean, this is really, it drives home the point of why this needs to be done. And I like that we've got, forward progress and rails on it. And the way you broke them up is really clear. I think it's going to make it really easy for us to get this information out to the target audiences. So just overall, nice job. Thank you.
Okay. Jane, and then Diane. Okay.
I totally agree with Corey. Great job, everyone, including you, Tom, in the background. The only request that I would make is for those neighborhood specific topics like the Harbor Village, the MBTA zoning issue, i.e. within 1/3 of a mile of the train. I think that we should provide written notice to the residents of the forums, so that way, and in addition to the social media, that's an example of a pretty discreet neighborhood that would be most likely to be interested in those issues, just like we did in the beginning with the Elm Street Working Group. I think we want to notify those folks.
Diane, I agree, by the way.
Yeah, Justin might cover this because I think he's part two, but agreed, great presentation. I was so impressed with all of this. I got them on my calendar, but I do think that we should try to identify some, whether it's adjacent neighborhoods or, even developers or people that we know might pose some resistance, and make sure they are invited. And to that end, I wonder if and this is a timing, staffing thing, but whether we could almost have a summary in the way of minutes or something like that of what happened at these 3 workshops available at town meeting. So maybe a segue to Justin.
Yes, thank you all very much. I think that you're going to be really excited to hear what Justin has to say because he's going to answer a lot of these things. So thank you all. I'll turn it back to Jack.
Yeah. By the way, thank you, Lauren. That's very good. And I think we should mention again the work that Tom Callahan has done. And also with our KP Law and their specialists, Judge Cutler, who is former Chief Justice of the Land Court. And she's doing this. And just for the people at home, our zoning has had a lot of inconsistencies and various bylaws conflict with others. So this complete overhaul not only has to make it legally consistent, but we're bringing it up to date. And Tom has spent tremendous amounts of, time, and I don't want to get his head more swollen than it already is, if that's possible. But anyway, Tom, thank you very much, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. And on that,
Thank you.
Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Give me one moment here. I'm going to share my screen. All right, can everybody see the screen? Perfect. Wonderful. So let's start this off here. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about engagement before, during, and after these forums. We really plan to hit the ground running with really a lot of pinpoint accuracy and precision. So tonight, I'm going to talk with you a little bit about our plans before, during, and after the meeting. I'd like to start out talking a little bit about engagement before the forum. This is most likely going to be the largest piece of the pie. It's really important to get folks interested in this, on these topics. Well, I want to start out with media engagement. What does media engagement really mean? Well, it means navigating social media like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and posting content with consistent messaging using a variety of media. This means creating short, in-depth informational videos that hit on certain zoning bylaw themes. These videos can be uploaded to social media and could also air on 143 TV. I'm going to show you a short video here. I just would like to just see a couple of thumbs up if everybody can hear, and just turn your volume up a little bit, and then we shall move on. Can everybody hear?
Yes.
I don't hear him talking in the video though.
You don't hear the video?
No.
Okay.
Just mime it.
Okay. All right, I'll pull up the video last. We'll see if we can get that video playing in a couple of minutes. So the video talks a little bit about how we're going to create short, succinct, a couple of minute long videos, and we're going to post that up to social media. I also want to create infographics with consistent messaging and create a social media calendar, looking at Facebook analytics to really find out when is the best time to post and sticking to that posting schedule. I think that is very, very important. Next, we've got kind of our local media. We've got WATD, we've got Cohasset Anchor, we've got the Patriot Ledger. We really want to take advantage of getting out to our local media. We want to create targeted press releases to be distributed to the local media. Finally, on air, on the record interviews with local media as well here. Next, I call this kind of the public outreach section. I've broken this down into print, boards and committees, and events. Starting with print, this means creating informational postcards with QR codes and mailing them out to every single household in Cohasset. These postcards could link to a page on our website that would have more information, dates, times, etc. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen, this is just a postcard that I made up with some dates and topics. We've got a QR code. So that would really head out to every single household here in Cohasset. I also would like to create some informational flyers that will go up inside town hall buildings, create lawn signs with QR codes that could be strategically placed around town. The QR code would lead folks to more information online. Boards and committees, making sure that every board and committee makes an announcement at either the beginning or at the end of every meeting, letting citizens know about the upcoming public forums. I think that's very, very important. And outreach at public events, utilizing the ZBC members and other volunteers to go to town, school, Wilcott Commons, and other community events and hand out informational flyers about ZBC committee and about the upcoming events. For instance, on Friday, 10/28, Cohasset football has a game. Would it be great if an announcement was made that that night's game is sponsored by the zoning bylaw committee? We could call it the zoning bylaw committee night. We could set up a table with volunteers and hand out flyers as folks walk in and out. Have the committee come out onto the field, wave to everyone, and have some type of a public outreach section during that game. Also, Wilcott Commons. Wilcott Commons has so many different types of events, so it would be wonderful to get some of those volunteers to some of those events and talk with the folks that utilize Wilcott Commons. Also, I want to move on to during the forum. We're going to have some light food, light snacks. We're also going to be making sure that this is accessible. We want to have this live stream. We want to have this on Facebook Live. We want to have this on Cohasset 143. We also want to have this on Zoom. We want to make it as easily accessible as possible. At the meeting, there will also be information flyers with QR codes that direct people to a notice and comment form, which we are currently working on. And possibly, we're working to possibly have some laptops available where there are forms that are up and ready to go. And we're also working on having paper copies of notice and comment forms for those who may not be able to access the online part. And then after the forum, we want to make sure these meetings are accessible. We want to make sure that these meetings are online within 24 hours. I'll help also to produce short videos after each forum that will really focus on the major topics that were discussed. We're also going to utilize the emails that we gather during every single session. We're going to send them out to attendees, thanking them with a link to the notice and comment section, as well as following up with them and making sure that they stay informed about the upcoming meetings. Well, what's next? Well, we have creating a social media and project calendar. I really think that's key. Discussing key message with the select board and the zoning bylaw committee, possibly having a joint meeting together and assigning communications tasks to myself and also to other members. Also, we are ready to hit the ground running to start creating some content and post because the first meeting is coming up on October 17th. Give me one moment here. Let me see if I can find the video. If I can get it to play.
Justin, it may be that Zoom can't capture outbound audio. There's like a security setting with that, you know?
Okay. Okay. That's our issue. All right. I will take some questions. Thank you.
Justin, it's easier if you put your, there we go. So questions for Justin? Paul, I mean, Corey.
Sure. Justin, I think that's great. You've identified a bunch of different things. I love the idea of getting to, you know, the social centers like the farmers market and town events. Zoning bylaw working group sponsored by doesn't really roll off the tongue, but I think being at the football game is awesome. Maybe something on, you know, during halftime. I think that's great. Just finding people where they are. I also, the point about following up with people after these meetings occur is huge. Because you know, people will know it and then they'll miss it. And if they get an email saying, you know, hey, this just got posted, it's going to really get a lot of, it's going to triple, quadruple the people that see this because they couldn't make it. And we're just reminding them. I mean, marketing, you say you tell people, you tell them and then you tell them again, like it's 3 times. So you're following that pattern great. And I think it's going to really work well. So thank you.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Jane?
Thanks, Justin. I thought that was great. Really appreciated it. I think that your point is well taken in terms of meeting maybe with the select board and the zoning group. So that way the select board can utilize its connections and social media as well to make sure we're pushing the message out in a consistent way with you. Just so, you know, for example, if we know that this week is like Harbor Week or Climate Resiliency Week, we can all be on the same page and, you know, just go from there, including with respect to messaging, because some of this messaging might be a little complicated. So I think it's worthwhile trying to make sure we're all on the same page about and aware of, how we're sort of reducing the messaging in a quick elevator speech. If you're on Twitter, you've got 20 words, something like that, where we can make sure that we're all being consistent too.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Justin, I just, having been kind of involved in the zoning for a while, excellent work. It's very important, and I'm glad that you and the bylaw committee are seeing the importance of letting the citizens know exactly what's being done and why. So when they come to make the vote to say A or nay, they're knowledgeable and they realize that the information is out there. And that's an excellent job. And I think they're very good. And you and the zoning bylaw committee needs to be commended for a job well done. Okay, any other Paul?
Justin, that's a very nice presentation, and it's fantastic that you're gonna get that outreach out, especially with zoning. And just a question, you'll be doing this, we'll be doing this for all the important topics or any topics coming up before town meeting, hopefully to generate more attendance at town meeting. So you'll be tapping into most of them and not just this.
We really want to try to get as many people involved as possible, which is why I've got some kind of out of the box ideas. But the goal is really to try to visit, like I said, visit the senior center, visit the high school football game, visit the tennis courts. And so we really do, yes, we really do want to try to get as many people as possible. That's the goal.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Well done. Any other comments, questions?
Thank you, board, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time. I'll send you that video. It was quite humorous. I know you understand that, I could put together a video, but I think you all may get a kick out of showing you what I can do with some video. So appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you, Justin. Okay, moving on. We are very, very fortunate in this town to have a very active scouting community. And we have had a lot of Eagle Scouts, or probably more Eagle Scouts per capita in Cohasset than any place that I know of. And I'd really like to introduce Aiden Teriyaki, Eagle Scout Project. And is he in there and ready?
He's here, Jack.
There he is.
Hello.
Well, how are you?
I'm
Welcome to
doing
Co-
well. Thank you.
Welcome to the Cohasset Select Board, and I understand that you and your Scoutmaster Vince are doing a project, and who'd like to lead this off?
Aiden, take it away.
All right. Do you mind if I share my screen? Okay.
Sure, let me give you permission.
Thank you. So I'll start off by saying that, hello, my name is Aiden Teriyaki. I'm currently a Life Scout in Troop 28. And I'm here today to present a project proposal for my Eagle Scout project, which is a solar powered phone charging station that will be integrated with a bench. And I am here to seek approval on 2 locations in town that can be expanded. So the basic concept of my project is a solar powered device using small solar panels connecting to power banks that there can connect to phone chargers in a small structure that can exist on a bench. It is the solar panels, it's a self-sustaining device. It uses very simple parts. I'm going to locate it in public areas where people may need to possibly emergency call or text. So I'm going to go down. So here's some reference images of ideas that I use to just help inspire my project. Just some concept images. I'm gonna have solar panels small ones on top. The general idea is just to attach it to a bench. I made almost like a digital concept render of the idea of my project. See, it would essentially just attach the charging assembly to a bench as a base and place it in locations in town, being the Cohasset Library in the backfield area, and Milliken Field in Cohasset. Both of these areas, there are many kids who I've noticed, and other adults who are especially behind the library, who are always out and about with friends, taking part in sports, as well as parents who are there. And often phones can die and you may need power to your device. I've heard from people such as Ted Carroll that kids are constantly like losing their phone because they left it somewhere and it ran out of battery and they had no way to contact their parents or locate where it is. And this bench would essentially act as a way to just charge people's devices passively, in a self-contained model that would stay on a bench that would be attached or just put at these two locations. Yeah, I've met with Ted Carroll and Brian Joyce about this project. Let's see. And yeah, I mean, in conclusion, I would mainly like to ask for the approval of the select board to give me permission to place the charging devices and the bench at locations A and B, being the basketball court and playground area behind the Cohasset Library and the Milliken Field near the snack shack and along the bench area. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity to present my project, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Well, thank you. That's a very excellent idea and it meets a real need. And you've checked with rec, obviously, that's all right with them to locate them. And do you have to check with the library? Is that library property or who do you check with?
I believe it's Ted Carroll who mainly supervises it. I'm not completely sure, but beyond that, it may be the town, maybe Brian Joyce, or I'm not exactly sure, but
Well, I think if
Ted
there's hi Aiden, thank you. I think that if there's someone else you need to check with, we can help you figure it out. It sounds like you've checked with the obvious folks and we can have Chris Senior help if there's any loose ends there. I think you've probably done your homework there. So great job.
Any other select board comments?
Good, Corey, Diane, and Jean.
Yep, I know I can't, if you could put your, stop your screen sharing because I can't see the other members.
yes. Now let's stop.
There we
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, I see Diane has her hand up.
Yeah, congratulations. It's a great presentation and good work. Just a quick question about the bench in particular at the library near the basketball courts. Is the actual charging station something you could affix to a bench that already exists? Because I know they have a couple there already.
Yeah, so the main concept would be for me to provide essentially a separate bench that could be installed there, not pre-existing benches.
Okay.
There are certain areas in there that I believe Ted said that could be useful to have some kind of just sitting area, especially in the basketball court.
Right.
But it would act as a separate entity from the current benches that are there.
Thank you very much. Good
Okay.
luck.
Thank you.
Corey and then Vince.
I would if Vince is going to respond to the bench thing, it seemed like
Okay.
Vince was, please.
So we prefer to have these things permanently mounted. The technology that Iden is working on can be costly. The current benches that are at the basketball courts are temporary. They can move around. They're big. I mean, they're 16-foot length, but you wouldn't want to have this technology moved around. So the preference is to have the bench permanently mounted in a location. So it'd probably be a smaller bench closer to the parking lot.
Very good. Thank you. Corey, was that your,
Yeah, no, I was just going to,
Oh,
as a
thank you.
fellow Eagle Scout, congratulations on a great project. You're the Cohasset troop is really, finds ways to improve the community in creative ways. And this just is another one of those. Whatever you need for help or assistance or, support, I'm here. I'd love to support this. Nice job.
Great, thank you.
Jane?
Yep, I echo Corey's sentiments. Great job, Aiden. And I think that if this is successful, maybe think about the Beechwood area as another place, because there's a lot of kids that go there, and the town sometimes will move our temporary solar. We have a generator that we sometimes move out there because there is a lot of interest. And I think if you can figure out a way to put a solar charger hooked up to a backpack, you'll probably end up making a huge amount of money when you grow up in order to charge kids' phones while they're hanging out.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion.
Very good. And Vince, thank
So I
you.
think,
Could you
yep. So
clarify
I was
what you're
just gonna
doing, Scouts?
let's see, that's a loaded question. I just wanted to make a comment, if Iden is successful with his fundraising, by all means, he's targeting, I think, 2 benches right now, one at Milliken, one at the basketball court. If his funding is successful, there's a lot of opportunity to add another bench over at Beechwood. By all means, Beechwood is definitely an area of need, with the basketball court, the playground, and the baseball field over there. So thank you for that suggestion. Jack, what was that question? I'm sorry.
Well, I don't want to take, this is Iden's moment to shine. And Iden, you were impressive. Your parents must be very proud. And but anyway, Vince, I do think that it's important that the adults who do so much like to be kind of recognized. So give us a little thumbnail of what you do for the Scouts.
So amongst other hats that I wear in town, I am the current Scoutmaster of a troop of 41 Scouts, very active Scouts in Cohasset. We were up close to near 70 pre-COVID, but COVID definitely changed direction of some of our scout participation. But we lead the boys, and there's also a girls troop in town. Jenny Elwell and Katie Holden run the girls troop. There's 10 girls in the girls troop. We try to work together to get the kids active. But we currently have about 15 Life Scouts in various aspects of their Eagle project. 2 just recently completed their Eagle. So we are very active, as you mentioned. We are, from a per capita basis, very high from our council level, from a Eagle Scout achievement percentage basis. But we try to keep the boys active. Service projects throughout the year, monthly camping activities, weekly meetings, and try to get them together to work with each other. From ages 11 through 18. We get the older boys to work with the younger boys. I try to keep myself on the back burner, so to speak. That's why I handed it right off to Iden off the bat, because it is Scout led. I'm here as a mentor, a coach, a facilitator, periodically police person, I'll say, just to make sure that everybody comes home safely from all of our activities. So.
Well, thank you. And by the way, can you guarantee to all the parents that all the Scouts will be as smart as Aiden? Just say yes. It's all right.
I'll say yes. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Aiden, thank you very much and congratulations. And it was a very smart idea. And thank you again.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Great job, Aiden.
Outstanding work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion to approve the project as
I'll
presented
second
to the town board?
I will second it.
We got a motion made and seconded to approve your project. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, roll call. Diane,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul,
Paul Grady, aye.
Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean,
Jean Haley Dippled, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you.
very much.
All
Greatly
right, Item,
appreciate it.
let's get to work.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
moving on.
Thank you all.
Moving on to the next thing. We're all aware that the Coyotes have decided to move to Cohasset, and I thought it'd be good to have Chief Quigley, and Josh Kimball, our animal resource, just kind of let us know that they're aware and what's going on. So I turn it over to you, Chief Quigley.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. I know you guys are running short on time. We're a little bit behind tonight, so I'll turn it over to the actual expert that we have, our Natural Resource Officer, Josh Kimball. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah.
Good evening. So I'm sure we've heard that we've had a couple of coyote attacks in town. Since August 20th, we've had 4 coyote encounters with humans and also domestic animals. We've had one that's down in the Beechwood Doan Street area, where a small dog that was off leash out in its own yard unattended had gotten into an encounter with a coyote. That dog is now recovering and is on the mend. We had 2 instances on one day. Early in the morning, the midnight shift officers had responded to a home up in Highland Ave, where a group of 7 coyotes had unfortunately wounded a dog so badly that it had to be euthanized. In that attack, it also got another dog of the same family. That dog had survived the attack, was treated for its injuries, and is also on the mend. Earlier, later on in that morning, we had a gentleman come into the lobby to report that he was out in Whitney Woods while he was walking with also his 2 unleashed dogs. The coyote began to attack the dogs. When he was trying to break it up, the coyote ultimately bit him in the leg. He's now going to go through the whole rabies treatment because we haven't been able to find which coyote was responsible. So he's getting his rabies shots and all the like. The wound was very minor, but he's also on the mend. Last night, I had gotten a call from a resident who stated that on Monday, they had, Sunday night, they had gotten into a squabble between a coyote and their dog. Similarly, with the past 3 incidents, this dog was also off leash as well. Dog is totally fine. It was just resulted in a small puncture wound. Got a rabies booster, expected to be on the mend. So a common thing that we're seeing here is that a coyote is an opportunistic animal. They're opportunistic feeders. So right now, springtime, we saw all the pups dancing around on the town common with mom and dad. Those pups are now becoming full-fledged adult coyotes. So mom and dad are kind of traveling with them. Typically, we'll see them, a pack of coyotes this time of year is mom and dad and the litter of pups that they've had in the springtime. So they're beginning to do their natural instinct of hunting. Typically, they will not hunt in people's yards. Coyotes are usually more afraid of us than we are of them. But since they are opportunistic animals, when they are going from point A to point B, they may be going in our yards to get to point B. And if they see an unleashed small dog or unleashed small animal, stray cat, they're going to take that opportunity to go to course A1 instead of going to point B. And they're going to attack that animal because it's easier prey. So it's very important that especially this time of year, from mid-August, 3rd week in August till about the second, third week in September is when coyotes are really going to be more active. To especially be vigilant with your pets outside that are not leashed. Always, we should be vigilant of animals that are off leash, even when we're walking in the woodlands, not only just to keep control of our animals, but to prevent an encounter with another domestic animal or wildlife as well. Another couple of tips that I would have for people too is, some people will feed cats, stray cats outdoors, and they may think that it's a cat that's truly eating it, when in reality it's a coyote coming for a midnight snack. So we want to try to push the coyotes away from the residential areas, secure garbage containers, put the garbage out the morning of pickup, not the night before, secure it with bungee cords, don't feed pets outside, and really keep animals on a leash. That's my biggest thing, because out of the 4 issues that we've had, all 4 have resulted in an animal that has been off leash. We can definitely, when you see a coyote outside, try to scare it away. We don't obviously want to hurt the coyote, but we want to make sure that it's going to put pain or a bad act that we have associated with humans. So if we see a coyote that's walking out and it's in our yard, playing pots and pans at it, throw an object towards it, spray it with the hose, make loud noises. Don't run away from it, because then it could assume that you are your food. So we want to make sure that we're bigger than the coyote, and that will try to push them right away, because they are naturally afraid of people.
Well, thank you, Josh. Very good. Paul?
Couple of things to throw out there. Thanks, Josh. My experience having 2 dogs. First off, as my daughter's small dog, I've got a coyote vest. So if the coyote bites at it, he's going to get a mouthful of spikes. Secondly, air horns work fantastic. They don't like them. And, flashlight in the face, I've taken it off the boat and I've blasted an air horn. So we've been followed a number of times by coyotes, and my other dog's relatively big. But there are a number of these air horns, pepper spray. They don't like them. But I think your most important thing, Josh, is dogs should be on a lead. And I realize people like to let them off, but they take off. Coyotes are pack animals. They'll draw one in, then they circle it, and that's the end of the dog. So
Corey, and then, thank you, Paul. Corey, and then Diane.
Yeah, Paul, just excellently phrased. Thanks for that. Somebody who's in Wampatuck all the time, just to be clear for the public, is there any risk to people that like to walk through Wampatuck during the day, during the evening? Is there recommendations for how you should protect yourself if you're somebody that enjoys getting out of town a little bit?
Yeah, so when we go in the woods, we're obviously in a very secluded area. So not only do we want to protect ourselves against animals, but also the potential of a person could potentially doing a bad act. So you always want to maintain that 360 degrees of awareness, as we like to say in the police world. Be aware of your surroundings. If you're out in the woods, carry pepper spray, carry a walking stick. That way, if an animal or a coyote, wild animal or domestic animal even comes after you, you have that right to protect yourself. Carry an air horn if you'd like, a whistle. That way any loud noise will scare those animals away for sure.
Thank you, Josh. Diane? Mute.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question. My dog did have a face-to-face, but I have a big dog, so nothing happened, thank goodness. But is there like a season by which, the sightings or the coyotes walking around are going to be less frequent?
So they remain active year round, and they do not hibernate. That's a big myth. Some people will say, oh, they go away for the winter. They do not. Coyotes will remain active throughout the year. So if someone, does potentially a dog and a coyote come face to face, we want to try to pick up our dog as soon as we can, scare that coyote away. shoo it away, make sure that, it has that bad act that was performed by the human. And then correlates that with, okay, I won't come back to this house. And that way they push away, stay away. So loud noises, lights, air horn, spray the pepper spray at them, throw a stick towards their direction. That way they scatter.
Thanks, Josh. Jane?
Thank you very much for the update. Quick question relating to Wampatuck along the same lines. Is there any particular risk with camping, including in Wheelwright? Because that is a place, both Wampatuck and Wheelwright are used by folks.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm sure that while you're out there, it's certainly going to be a sight to see with all the wildlife that we have in town. I know we have red fox, we've got gray fox, squirrels, birds, all the like. But it goes back to that, just maintaining that 360 degrees of awareness, being constantly vigilant that we do have a variety of species of wildlife out there. And if someone is in fact out in any of the areas in town and they feel like they're being threatened by a wild animal or another domestic animal that's off leash, absolutely call 911 immediately. Either myself or one of the other officers will come out and we will get you out of the woods if you don't feel safe enough to scare that animal away.
Thank you. I might add, when you're camping,
That's coyote vest, just to let you know, Jack.
that's,
Yeah, they get a mouthful.
oh,
of-
I thought that was the hat you've been wearing around
Yeah,
town.
they get a mouthful of that. They're gonna, swear to Christ, they're gonna be, they're not gonna be digging it.
Just when you're camping, you eat, barbecuing, marshmallows, that's food and that will attract them. When
Yeah,
we
if-
go camping, we would take our food and put it in a bag and hang it from a tree. Anyway,
And you could definitely, when out camping, secure the food scraps. If you bring out a metal box, that way the sight and the smell is kind of knocked down a little bit, and then bring that inside your tent with you so that they can't ravage through it.
yeah. Now, of course, they're not going to follow that inside your tent.
I would hope
Sorry.
not.
I couldn't resist. Anyway, are there any other comments? Thank you. And Chief Quigley.
Oh, just one thing. I love the vest, Paul. I've never actually seen one for real, but it would be definitely displeasurable for the coyote to bite into that. But at any rate, just so everybody knows, the law changed a few years ago about pepper spray, and you can buy pepper spray without a permit now. You can get it online. You can get it at Walmart, Bass Pro Shops, and it's the same stuff we carry on our belt, and they come with little the little, almost like a cell phone carrier for your belt. And it works on animals. It's, they want nothing to do with that. And bear spray, it sounds a little crazy, but bear spray is the same thing. It's pepper spray, but it goes a lot further. It really shoots, 25 or 30 feet. And they come in small containers, no more than the size of, less than the size of a can of soda. And again, you can put it right on your belt and you sort of don't know it's there till you have to use it. It's a great alternative, and it's readily available, no permit required.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chief Quigley. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you. I think this is very helpful. It's nice to know that we have a good police force and we have a animal control officer. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Red Lion Inn. Is anybody here from Red Lion Inn?
I'm recusing myself, FYI.
Okay, thank you. Red Lion Inn has applied for extension of hours. I do not see that they are here.
Jack, I think Tracy or somebody from Town Hall noted in an email to us that they weren't able to be here and that we should either consider going ahead without them or putting it on another agenda.
I guess if they're not here, there's nobody to answer any questions that we might have. So I think we'll have to put it on the next agenda. So we'll move on to the CPC appointment, Merle Brown. He's the Historical Society rep to the CPA for an unexpired term until 6/30/2023. Is Merle here by any chance?
I hope so. One of my favorite people.
Right. Merle has served as the select board for a number of years, chairman of the Conservation Commission, always and very active in the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Just somebody who's always there. So if he is not here,
He is not present, Jack.
okay, then we could either pass on this, or if people feel
Well-
they know him, we could.
Russ Benetti's in the audience, and I know I sent an email that Historical had recommended he be appointed.
Okay, Paul,
Jack, I'd make a motion that we pass this fellow right through.
Second.
right. All right, we've had a motion made and seconded to appoint Merle Brown to the CPC for the unexpired term until 6/23/2023. It's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote. Jean,
Jean Haley Dipple.
Paul,
Already, aye.
Diane,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. Congratulations, Merle. Another chapter in the ongoing saga of Merle Brown's service to Cohasset. May it go on forever. Select Board fiscal year 24 budget message, Chris, or I guess Chris.
So this is the time of year the select board begins work on that. I've actually sent you and Jean just a very rough cut draft, Jack, to look at based on the past ones. So you can do anything you'd like with it, or start from scratch if you'd like. The advisory committee will meet on the 21st next week, and they usually give input to the select board as well. So they'll be meeting to talk about their input for your budget message next week. This just kind of triggers the process. Sometimes the board's appointed one of their members to do the work. Usually a board member drafts it, whether it's the chair, the vice chair, or somebody else. So,
Okay. Does anybody want to work on that?
I mean, I'd be happy to work on it because I've done it before. So, and it's pretty standard, but I think we need to wait for advisory's input, or however you want to handle it.
I'd be happy to. help
You know,
Diane.
I could go ahead, Jean. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'd be happy to help you, Diane, just so I can learn from your perspective.
Right.
What I can do, Jean, is just grab the last couple of years worth. It's really just to give Chris and his team guidance on building the FY24 budget. So I'll get everything into a folder and share it, and we'll go from there.
All right. So, you know, I guess as chair, I asked Diane and Jean to take care of that. I don't think unless people want to go through a formal vote and all that, but I think we're all fine with that. So hearing no objection, we need to open the special town meeting warrant. Chris?
So someone on the board just to make a motion to open the warrant for the December 12th meeting. What that means is that citizens petitions, the period for them is open, and they'll all be open for 1 week. So if there's any citizens that are interested in filing a citizen petition, they need 100 signatures, valid signatures of voters, and it would have to be in the hands of the clerk's office here by next Tuesday at the close of business. So this is a kind of a standard vote, just open that warrant. There is a group on King Street we've been working with that may actually have a citizen petition and that's the one I'm aware of at the moment, though they haven't finalized that yet.
And if it goes 10 days from when we put it on the warrant?
Seven. It's a week.
I'm sorry, 7. Is there any deadline as to the latest time we can put it on the warrant or open it?
Well, for citizens petitions, it's only a week. So that's the way the bylaw reads. once you open the warrant, the select board you're going to get a first cut of the warrant next week. And then you can add stuff, the select board can add stuff to the warrant really right to the last minute. So you could do it right to the end of October.
Okay.
So this is really opening it really for the purpose of citizens petitions. We've already gotten probably 10 or 12 article potential. We just got 4 today from the water department, by the way. So for fall town meeting. So we'll package those up and you'll see that for our first cut next week.
But for the citizens, we start the clock running if we pass that tonight.
Correct.
And if we passed it next week, then people would have 7 days after that.
That's correct.
I guess my suggestion, and for purposes of transparency, is we ask Justin to put the notice out that we will be doing this and the deadline will start a week after our next meeting. I'd like anybody who's thinking about it, I'd like to give them fair warning, but that's my opinion. Diane?
Yeah, I just, one of the time benchmarks is working backwards from when the warrant with a special town meeting has to be in people's hands sooner than an annual town meeting even. So Chris, I want to make sure that that gives enough time to do that, because we did publicize it and have town council available for citizens to vet their considerations.
Mhm.
So 2 things, yeah, they have
So-
been noticed, but is it enough time, Chris?
So I think it would be enough time at the same time. And we have posted the schedule. We've posted this availability up for a couple of weeks. So it's up on social media, it's on the webpage. And the folks that we knew were interested, we've been communicating with, so we didn't leave anybody out. That said, it's up to the board. If you want to officially open it next week and then have it close on the 27th, that's fine. But I wouldn't go any later than that, because the whole thing has to be wrapped up by the end of October. You want to have enough time for the committees and yourselves to discuss any potential articles.
Well, I'm always think that we're better off erring on the side of giving people an extra chance, but if the board feels differently, the board feels differently. That's just my opinion. Is there discussion on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I agree with what you're saying. I think if we do a special meeting next week, just open the warrant, give people an extra 7 days to prepare before we start the clock. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You actually have a regular meeting next week, so it's not.
That's what I mean, a regular
Well,
meeting.
then we can divide them. I'll call
Yeah,
it a special meeting.
So we do it next week. Okay. Does anybody have any objection to that? We open the warrant?
I don't think we need a motion. I think we could just
No.
continue this item to the next week.
But I want to make sure the board is in agreement with that. So I'm hearing everybody's in agreement with that. So let's make sure it's on the next week. Okay. Approval of minutes, August 23rd, 2022 and August 30th, 2022. That's been distributed to the board. Is everybody fine with that? If so, the chair would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the 2 sets of minutes, August 23rd, 2022 and August 30th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes for August 23rd and August 30th, 2022. Is there any discussion? Hearing no further discussion, roll call. Diane?
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Corey?
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean? Jean, you're muted, but I saw Jean mouth aye. Paul?
Already, aye.
Jane, you're still, there we go.
Jean Haley Dippled eye. Sorry, I got it
Jack
wrong.
Creighton, aye. The motion carries. Town manager update of things of excruciating importance.
Since you're right back on time, I won't extend this. So quickly, Sawyer Street is done. The repaving is complete and the sidewalk repaving is complete. So that's one project off the list. The work on Pond Street should be wrapping up. It's good for the buses and people to move. That said, they'll be finishing this phase of it hopefully shortly. And then the repaving will take place in the spring because that's a settle over the winter. The work on North Main, the work that was being done, National Grid, as some saw, started to work at night. That was not legal. They jumped ahead. They never told anybody. They didn't get any permits. So they were told they cannot do that. That was completely improper. So they're back to days where they should be. So they're going to have a little more work to do, but they should be finished in the next couple of weeks on that project. And then the repaving again is next spring. And then the Beechwood water main, that contract is being finalized, and hopefully that work will start in the next couple of weeks as well, hopefully in early October. The goal is to have that done before it gets too cold and the ground starts to freeze. And again, the repaving of that will also be next spring. And one last project, the long-awaited repairs to the Parker Ave boat ramp are scheduled to begin on November 1st. So that is a project that can go on over the winter because it has to avoid fish. And that should be done by spring. That's the plan. Hopefully it'll be done much sooner than that, but if it starts in November, it should be done on time.
Very good. And Chris, you get the award for fast speaking, and I encourage you to, it was very well done, very impressive. All right. Select board comments. I'm just going to go as I see it on my screen. So Diane, Corey, Jean, and Paul.
Just very quickly, the emergency call box was installed at the at Black Rock Beach. So I was so excited. I wanted to see if it worked, but of course I didn't. But I took lots of pictures, and thank you for getting that done. That's important safety enhancement down there. So that's it. Thank you.
You were like a dog with a bone, Diane. Congratulations. Corey.
It does work. It does work. I promise.
Yes.
All right, three things. One, yeah, I'd love to get the school facilities committee to come and update us. The superintendent, Pat Sullivan, made a comment in one of his forums with parents that we've hit the next phase. I know they were in front of advisory 2 weeks ago. Love to hear what's happened recently, because it's been a little while since they've been up there. Secondly, crap, I wrote all this down, but I've forgotten. And I guess I'll just finalize with the end of summer is on Sunday, because that's the day that JJ's closes. So thank you, everybody.
Jane?
Just a reminder that we are having a Cohasset virtual cleanup day sponsored by the Open Space and Rec Committee on September 17th, where people are encouraged to beautify their area or someone else's in order to help Cohasset look and clean, and then post themselves doing great work, and everyone will encourage them on social media while making Cohasset look beautiful.
Thank you, Jane. Paul?
I wanted to follow up on that, so Jean kind of grabbed the thunder. I did speak to Chris about this. I don't know if anybody saw that post on 143, and thank you, Justin and Chris, for responding. And I want to give kudos to a fellow named Jay Berdovich, I believe his name is, who went out and took it upon himself to do some cleanup. That's some spirit. But I'd like to see going forward is if we can organize something about like this, that where people take some pride, or even some ordinances about keeping these areas clean. That was just a little puzzling, a little disappointing. And Chris, you had said the town people in, say, Hingham, because they do keep it spotless there. Their shop owners come out and they clean their areas. I don't understand why we can't do that, or encourage our store tenants to do something like that. Or we come up with some sort of program. There's a lot of volunteers that would do it, as we spoke about. If we find some sort of, I don't know, grants or funding, like some of these committees get something, just offer the weeding tools, the implements, or something like that, just something to keep the town clean. But I'd like to thank that Mr. Berdovich for stepping out and doing it on his own. I read that, and I think that's pretty neat.
Okay, thank you, Paul. My only comment is, as I see what's going on in this town and see all the boards and the committees, the long-range financial planning, the zoning bylaw committees, the planning, zoning, the regular zoning board of appeals, conservation. It is a source of great pride for Cohasset that we do have citizens who are stepping to the plate. And not only are they stepping to the plate, but it being effective. I think we are seeing a town in which the citizens, despite many disagreements and some spirited, all come together and make Cohasset the wonderful town it is. So I'd just like to salute all the volunteers, including the fellow members of the select board, for the work that's being done. And it is very gratifying to see that it's been successful. Cohasset is better today for their work. And thank you all. And I'd like to Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to adjourn. We have a second.
Second,
We have a motion to adjourn made and seconded. Roll call vote. Diane,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean,
Jean Haley Dipple Dye.
Paul,
Paul Grady, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. And this meeting is adjourned.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.